Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a strategy called winning by not fighting. It's an incredibly counterintuitive approach designed specifically for parents who are navigating the highly emotional and, let's be honest, often totally overwhelming worlds of family court and guardianship.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Think about it. When the system steps in and takes control of your child's care, every single instinct in your body is probably going to scream at you to fight back. You want to argue. You want to prove them wrong. You want to wage an all-out war for your family. And the core conflict here is just as fascinating as it is tragic. A parent loses guardianship, often of a child with severe complex needs, and their immediate, totally natural reaction is intense anger. They might yell at supervised visits, confront the staff, or fire off these really aggressive emails late at night. They're fighting because they care fiercely. But here's the catch. In the eyes of the court and to the caseworkers, this adversarial combat doesn't look like love. It looks like instability. It paints a picture of a parent who just cannot regulate themselves. So you're left with this massive paradox. How do you actually win when fighting back is the exact thing destroying your chances?
Well, there's this incredibly powerful thesis drawn straight from our source material, which is a strategic playbook originally written to help a father named John win back access to his son. The strategist tells him point blank, the judge already knows you love him. He doesn't know yet who you are on the days nothing's on fire. And that hits the nail on the head, right? The court doesn't doubt your love. That battle is already won. What they doubt is your steadiness. And honestly, it makes you think about the sheer amount of time and resources the system spends constantly reacting to courtroom drama and explosive visit room incidents. If all that time, money, and energy could instead be invested in prevention, if parents were guided to channel their energy into this kind of preventive, everyday steadiness, it would completely change the entire legal landscape.
To really understand why parents inadvertently sabotage their own cases, we have to look at this instinct to fight with a lot of empathy. Underneath all that anger, it's literally just a shape for immense grief. In the source material, you see the father focusing on these massive conspiracies, arguing over vaccines, and threatening to sue basically everyone in the group home. And on a human level, that is a completely natural container for the agonizing pain of losing day-to-day authority over his nonverbal child. But legally, it's a total disaster. Every time he treats a minor medical event like a data point for a grand lawsuit, he escalates the situation, creates a public scene, and ultimately, he just ruins his own legal strategy.
So to stop that sabotage, our source material uses this really brilliant framing device called the Cindy Lou Shift. It goes a little something like this. Ask why, not who's to blame. Cindy Lou, don't play that game. It sounds so simple, kind of playful even, but it represents a massive, fundamental pivot. You're moving away from an adversarial, hostile blame game and shifting toward a relational, curious narrative. It's all about earning trust by stringing together steady days rather than blowing up every time you perceive a slight.
The fairy tale symbolism here is absolutely spot on for unpacking the internal battle a parent faces. On one side, you have the judge, often viewed almost like this looming, aggressive monster, representing all that terrifying institutional authority. But on the other side is Cindy Lou Who, simply looking up and asking, why? She isn't fighting, she isn't condemning the monster, she's just asking a genuine question that totally humanizes the interaction. And that's the secret. Genuine, calm questions can interrupt those cold, robotic institutional scripts without aggressively challenging their authority.
The crucial takeaway is the stark contrast between these two mindsets. The adversarial narrative is completely obsessed with who is guilty, who wins, who can I sue today? But the relational narrative, it asks, why did this happen? What would restore trust in this moment? Making the shift to asking why instead of who's to blame isn't a sign of weakness at all. Actually, it's the necessary paradigm shift you have to make to prove to the court that you are a steady, highly reliable presence in your child's life.
So, let's look at part 1 of the strategy, the playbook, 90 steady days.
How do you actually pull this off when you are just drowning in grief and anger? The source outlines a rigorous, very practical playbook designed to entirely replace that destructive fighting instinct with documented steadiness. This is highly direct, actionable advice for parents right on the ground. First, actively say that Cindy Lou rhyme to yourself to regulate your emotions in the moment. Second, and I can't stress this enough, this is massive. Wait 24 hours before you send any angry text or email to the guardian or the agency. Just pause. Third, commit to one steady act during your visits. Maybe just sit and eat a meal together. Don't try to fix everything at once. Fourth, write 3 lines a night in a physical notebook. The date, one good thing that happened, and one frustrating thing. This builds a reliable, tangible legal record instead of turning your Facebook page into a giant legal liability. And finally, Actively do whatever it is that calms you down before you make any hard phone calls.
The playbook breaks all of this down into a really reassuring but strict 3-month arc. Month 1 is purely about absorbing the reality of the situation. That means no new letters, no relitigating past incidents. It is strictly a time for grieving and staying quiet. Then month 2 shifts toward building a curious, completely non-hostile relationship with the legal guardian, asking what the child needs rather than attacking past decisions they've made. And finally, month 3. This is for the practical stuff, like securing stationary housing and knocking out all that boring administrative paperwork. You absolutely do not rush the practical stuff until your emotional ground is steady. Slowing down here is for sure a feature of the strategy, not a bug.
Moving on to Part 2, Shields, Not Restrictions, Reframing the Rules.
This directly addresses a huge hurdle, the gap between what parents think is best for them in the moment versus what is actually best for their long-term case. When you're forced into supervised visits, the rules feel incredibly insulting. They feel like a cage. But we need to reframe how we look at these restrictions. Let's take a common rule, for example. Staff must handle all of the child's bathroom needs. To a father, that feels like a slap in the face. It feels like they don't even trust him to care for his own kid. But what is that rule actually doing? It's removing the single most dangerous moment for false allegations. If he is never alone in the bathroom with the child, nobody can ever accuse him of anything improper, period. Another rule might ban photographing the child to check for bruises. Again, it feels restrictive, but it actually prevents the parent from creating a public, hostile scene that would just ruin their credibility. These rules aren't just cages. They are legal shields that protect the parent from repeating past disastrous incidents.
Let me give you a real-world example from the sources. A cautionary tale called the July Trailer Incident. The father ended up having an unauthorized visit with his son in his RV, entirely because of a misunderstanding about who had given permission. But in court, the judge didn't see it as a simple mistake. It handed the guardian a terrifying, incredibly damaging flea risk argument to use against the father. By strictly adhering to transportation rules and never ever leaving the authorized visit location, a parent prevents these innocent little misunderstandings from mutating into permanent, case-destroying stains on their custody record.
Which brings us to Part 3, Authorship over Perception.
This is where an absolutely crucial psychological shift happens. Proud parents hate, and I mean hate, feeling like they are being handled or being told to manage their optics or put on a fake smile for a judge. It hits their pride like a direct accusation. So instead, the playbook introduces the concept of authorship. Look, the legal record is being written about you whether you like it or not. You cannot stop the system from writing a story, but you alone get to decide what data that story is built out of. You aren't managing perceptions. You are actively authoring the official record through your own steady, undeniable actions.
And this quote perfectly captures that new mindset. You're not performing, you're widening the sample. Think about it. Right now, the court probably only has a very thin, very skewed slice of data to judge this parent by. All they see are a few bad, highly reactive visits where the parent was pushed to the brink and lost their temper. So your job as a parent isn't to put on some fake performance. Your job is to widen the sample size. You need to drown out the bad data with good data. You show the court the version of yourself that calmly helps people, the version of yourself that exists when nothing is on fire.
Ultimately, this whole strategy is about playing the long game. The immediate goal of these 90 days isn't necessarily some miraculous overturning of the guardianship by tomorrow afternoon. The system just doesn't move that fast. The real end game is achieving a spotless, pristine legal record. By stacking up clean, steady visits day after day, you slowly move up the stairs. And that steady climb is what actually leads to longer visits, visits at your own home, and eventually the restoration of a real fatherhood role, where you are legally credible and respected.
We're going to end on this incredibly poignant thought, because it perfectly summarizes the massive stakes of navigating this system. Every visit is either a step up the stairs or a reset back to the bottom. There is absolutely no neutral interaction here. Every single text message you send, every single visit you attend, every brief response to a caseworker, it either builds your credibility up or it tears it right back down. So the question is, will you let your temper reset you to the bottom of the staircase, or will you use steady days to step back up into your child's life? It's a profound, life-altering question for any parent fighting for their family. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. Catch you next time.